Hello, my name is Steve Jablonski, and I'm the host of Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush. Today we have a topic that in all the years we've been doing this, I don't think we've ever covered, and it's just investments. And we'll start with something very basic, like a checking account, and go all the way through. So with that, Jeff?
Steve, hello, welcome to the show. Great to be here on PCTV. It's hard to believe we've been doing this show now for 12 years, and of course today we're broadcasting from high atop the Security Trust building, which is which also serves as our Pottstown office here on 152 East High Street. We also have three other offices. We have our main location, which is in West Norriton, 2570 Boulevard of the Generals, and then we have an office in Wyomissing, 999 Berkshire Boulevard. And then we also have an office in Allentown on Hamilton Street, 6081 Hamilton Street. So this is a good topic today, Steve, to talk about the various financial instruments, and we're going to really start with the basics. So this is really good for people that are just trying to grasp a fundamental understanding of how finances work, right? So we're going to start with, you basically have you go to the bank and you open up a checking account, right? So you use that to pay your bills. So you keep money in there. It's a good account to have money going in and money going out. So when you get paid, you're putting your paycheck in there. It's a good idea, and a lot of people have what they call direct deposit. You have the money directly deposited into your checking account, and then you have money flowing out of the account to pay your bills. Now, in today's day and age, a lot of this stuff, you're not actually physically writing a check, right? A lot of it's just coming out automatically through, maybe it's through the ACH system. And when I say anyway, do you know what ACH stands for?
Mm-hmm.
Automatic Clearing House. So, but the ACH is the banking system that we use to transfer money in and out. So that's used to pay bills automatically. You can physically write a check, but it's just the most basic thing. Everybody needs a checking account.
And it's a base too. Like if you go to Wawa, not to plug Wawa, but you have your phone and it comes from your checking account.
Yeah.
You don't have to really put your checking account number in there.
Yep. Yeah. And I think the important point that we want to make here too is you want to constantly look at activity in your checking account, because here's where, because you're doing all this stuff online, you're doing it automatically, you're susceptible to fraud. And maybe not only just fraud, but just things you're not necessarily aware of. You may have authorized a purchase and you forgot that you've done that. So it's good to monitor those accounts regularly to make sure that everything that's coming out of that account is legitimate and it's what you want.
In the next two, we have savings and money market. And as Jeff said, checking is everyday money moving back and forth. But in financial planning, we want people to have 3 to 6 months in a cash reserve, and these next two tiers are what people use.
Yeah, so a savings account would be maybe money that you don't need right away, right? Like the checking account is really your operating account for funds that you're going to need, immediately, or let's say in the next 30 days. Whereas a savings account would be, an account that you're going to use for maybe a rainy day, or maybe you've got a large expense that's coming up several months down the road. Maybe you got a big tax bill coming up. Maybe you're going to be taking a vacation. Maybe you're saving for a car. There could be a lot of different ways to use a savings account. But it's important to have a savings account, and also keep it at the same bank, and then you can transfer money back and forth between the checking and a savings account.
In the money market, it used to be just like a money market, and now there's money market mutual funds.
Yeah. Well, the money market is also a form of savings, except that With a money market, maybe the timeline on a money market is maybe even further. So you want, and you could put some emergency funds in there. If there's 3 to 6 months of earnings in a savings account, in a money market, you want to have, a couple of years worth of earnings in there, just as a nice safety net, as a nice cushion. And you want to look at competitive rates, right? Because you want to have a competitive rate of interest. And you mentioned mutual funds. So, these mutual fund companies have money market options. And, some of these money market options are, pretty attractive relative to what you might be able to get, at your local bank. But I think it's important to shop around here because you want to get the best rate, because if your money is sitting in a money market account and it's there for emergency purposes, long-term purposes, and we see people that have pretty substantial amounts in these accounts. You want to be getting the highest rate possible. So
because you may not touch the money market money.
Yeah, and what I've found too is the yield on some of these money markets are it's pretty attractive. You're getting just as much of a yield on a money market account as you can get on a bond. So it's good to have a money market, but it's good to shop around. And the other point that I want to make here is the money market account serves a special purpose in that it allows you to have be fully invested and be invested in the equity markets with money that has a truer, a long-term goal, So the money market is maybe shorter-term liquidity, and then that allows you to have play the long game with your equity portfolio.
And as checking, savings, and money market have no term, when we get into CDs, you have rate and you have term.
Yeah, so a CD is a certificate of deposit. So again, you can get this at the local bank. You can also get that inside of a brokerage account, and it's got a term to it, right? So you can buy a 6-month or a 9-month CD, or 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I guess you can even go out 5 years on a certificate of deposit. And it pays a rate of interest, right? A competitive rate of interest. So the thing you have to be careful of when you buy a certificate of deposit is that you have to hold it to the end of the term to get all your interest, or else you're going to forfeit it. So if you compare that to a money market, the money market is kind of like a demand deposit. So you can take the money out, all of it, anytime that you want to. With a certificate of deposit, that's not the case. You have to hold it into maturity to get all your money, or you're going to pay some sort of a prepayment penalty.
And when we got in the industry, we'd sit down with prospects and they say, I have the CD, I'm getting 15%.
Yeah, well, CD rates have changed dramatically over the years, and the interest rate landscape has changed dramatically over the years. So CD rates are tracking, money rates, bank rates. So, and also inflation. I mean, if you were getting, back in the 80s, when you were getting double-digit returns on a certificate of deposit, we were also probably experiencing close to double-digit inflation. Yeah. So in real terms, everything's relative, and sometimes it's hard to see that.
Yep.
But that's kind of what's happening with CDs. You have to be a little careful. So I'm going to throw a word of caution out here with the CD. So if you go out and buy a CD, and let's say your best rate that you can get on a CD is 5 years. That may look good now, but if interest rates go up, you're still holding that CD at the rate that you bought it at, right? So then, you can't really, your hands are tied unless you want to pay a penalty. Your hands are tied until that term is up. So that's why the money market account is sometimes more attractive, because with a money market you can pivot pretty quickly, and also money market rates move more with the market. So a money market rate can change daily. Money market rate can be one thing today and another thing tomorrow. So you just have to be, I would just throw a word of caution in there with the certificate of deposit.
And on the opposite side of that, if rates are low, you wouldn't want to go long. You want to go short.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that.
Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the same. It's the
Yep.
same concept.
Yep.
Is that you want to take advantage of rates that, if rates are going up, you want to be taking advantage of a higher interest rate.
So let's move into stocks, and we'll just let you go with that. What are they? And
Well,
how
stock.
do you
Yeah.
use
So
them
with stock, when you're buying a stock, what you're doing is you're investing in a company. You own part of the company. That's what a common stock is. So, in its most basic form, if you're buying 100 shares of a stock, let's just throw out, GE, or just throw out GE. It's a stock that trades on the open market, the New York Stock Market, New York Stock Exchange. So when you're buying 100 shares of a stock, GE in this example, you now own part of that company, right? So you have everything that's entailed with ownership of the company, meaning you have voting rights. So when there's decisions to be made, and you have the right to cast that vote. So you can go to a stockholder meeting, cast the vote, or you can put in what's called a proxy vote, and mail in your vote, but you own part of the company. So if you own 100 shares of that stock, you have 100 shares of voting rights. If there's dividends on that stock, you're entitled to dividends. So if they're paying, 50 cents a share, you're going to get 50 cents a share of a dividend on that stock. The big, most important thing to remember when you're buying stock is the risk that you're taking that goes along with owning that stock. So if you own, again, using the example of GE stock, if GE, the price of that stock goes up, the value of your shares are going to go up. If the price of the stock goes down, then the value of your shares are going to go down. So everything that we've talked about, Steve, up to this point, there really isn't risk to principal, right? So checking account, savings account, money market account, unless there's extreme circumstances where the bank is failing or the money system is failing, which would be, like I said, a very, very extreme example, your principal is protected. With stock, that is not the case. With stock, you're taking risk to principal, right? So you're buying this stock in hopes that the stock is going to appreciate. So you're going to collect your dividend, and there's hope that GE is going to make the right investments. The market is going to continue to prosper. So there's a lot of things that are going to drive the price of that stock. So it could be the stock market in general. It could be the market that GE is in. Now I picked GE. It's a stock that really, has a lot of different facets to it.
Will our younger viewers know what GE
Maybe
is, or
not.
should we talk about Apple?
We could talk about Apple. That's a good point. That's a good point because it could be any stock. So let's use Apple, or or a similar technology stock. But Apple's the same way. So if technology stocks go up, then Apple's most likely going to go up. If Apple introduces a new product that becomes very popular with consumers, then the price of the stock is going to go up. Conversely, a lot of things that could happen to make the stock go down, right? So maybe technology stocks could, go down, or, there's a lot of things that just put downward pressure on the stock market. Just in general, there could be global reasons why the stock market is going down. The point is that there's risk that's involved with buying stocks. So you have to, and that's why it's important to cover those other fundamentals, investments, checking account, savings account, money market, before you even think about buying stock.
And to your point, there's a difference between fluctuation and loss. And your stock's going to fluctuate, and it's down, but if you hold it, you didn't lose.
Yeah,
the minute you sell it, you've locked in a loss.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about the long game when we talk about stocks. So you want to be in stocks for a long period of time. We don't really promote let's get in and let's get out of the stock market. We want to get in, and we want to stay in there for the long term. And the long term investors are the ones that get rewarded for holding these stocks over time.
Yep. And then they name stocks: large cap, mid cap, small cap.
Yeah.
How do they determine that?
Well, because there's different types of stocks. So there's stocks. When you say large cap, that means large capitalization. That means it's a big company. It's large in size, right? And then mid cap is like middle. It's the middle of classification. So it's not a large stock, like we mentioned GE, we mentioned large. Apple. Those are all examples of large cap stocks. Your mid cap stocks may be companies that you never heard of, right? It could be a bank, could be a utility, could be something that operates on a regional basis, but their stock, and I don't know, I forget what the cutoff is for classifying a mid cap versus a large cap stock, but there's different dynamics that go along with mid cap. And then you have your small cap, which small capitalization stocks are, those are typically like a startup where there's not a lot of equity. It could be a stock that isn't even traded on a major exchange, right? It could be a privately held company. So the important point to make here, Steve, is that at different points in time, different segments of the market outperform other segments of the market. So sometimes small cap stocks are the best performing stocks. Other times it could be the mid cap or the large cap. So we have to, that's why it's important to have diversification in your portfolio.
And then the market capitalization is determined by the outstanding shares times the price. And that's how they get
the value of the company. Yep.
So when we moved in, let's get into bonds, or what is known as fixed income.
Yeah. So when you're buying a bond, and again, if you get into, and there's different types of bonds. So let's talk about corporate bonds. When you buy a corporate bond, you're buying what is essentially the debt of that corporation. So it's not stock, it's debt. So there's an interest rate that this corporation is paying to you as a bondholder, right? So the important thing to remember here is that a bondholder is standing in line to get paid in front of the stockholder. So if the corporation issues a bond for 6%, right? So every quarter, they're paying, a quarter of that 6% bond rate, or what we call coupon rate, to the bondholders. They're going to get paid before there's a dividend that's paid to the stockholders. So going back to the GE example, if you're a GE bondholder is going to get paid before a GE stockholder. Now there's other types of bonds. There's government bonds, there's municipal bonds, and they all have different features to them. But the bonds are a form of investment where you're getting paid based on the interest rate or the coupon rate of the bond. Now, the important thing to remember, or the risk that is inherent in a bond, is that the bond has a selling price. So the selling price is really predicated on interest rates. So and picture a seesaw, right? So as interest rates go up, the value of the bond goes down. As interest rates go down, the value of the bond goes up, right? So if you're holding a bond that's paying 6%, and there's just a general overall rise in interest rates, now that 6% bond that you're holding, the 6% coupon rate, becomes less valuable in the marketplace. Because if I went out and bought a bond today, I'd get 8%. So my 8% is higher than your 6%, and that makes your bond less valuable.
Okay. Good. Let's get on to mutual funds.
Mutual funds, moving right along. So mutual funds are a way to get instant diversification, right? So if you want, and mutual funds all have different objectives, right? So let's say your objective is, I want large capitalization stocks. So if you go out and buy a mutual fund that invests exclusively in large cap stocks, now you own a little piece of every company inside of that mutual fund. And that's a great way to invest, especially for if you're just starting out investing or you just want diversification. You now own a piece of every, there might be 300 different stocks inside that mutual fund. So you own a little piece of every one of them. So mutual funds take on many different forms. They could be stocks, they could be bonds, they could be a mixture of stocks and bonds. They could be a mutual fund that's focused on growth. It could be a mutual fund that's focused on income. It could be an index. Yep. The mutual fund could be focused on an index. So there's all kinds of different mutual funds out there. And of course, they all have a prospectus that goes along with it. And you should be reading the prospectus and understanding the prospectus. And if you're working with a financial professional together, you should go through these mutual funds and their objectives and pick the right fund or pick the right series of funds to invest your portfolio. And Steve, I think we should, as we go through all these types of investments today, we have information on all these. So if you want to contact our office, we have we'll put this up on the screen. You can contact us either by email or you can call our office, and some advisor on our team, we can sit down with you and go through these various investment strategies.
And Jeff, as we go through this, I think we're going to have an investment 102.
I think so.
As we go through this.
I think so.
And when you look at how a mutual fund is purchased versus a stock, one's at close and one's live.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So a stock has a price that's dynamic. It changes every second that it's traded on the market. A mutual fund only has one price daily. It recalculates at the end of every day. right? So they add up all the investments inside of the mutual fund to, the value of every mutual fund, and that determines the price of the fund. ETFs, I don't know, were you asking me about ETFs?
No, just stocks, how you buy
stock.
there.
Well, a stock, yeah, so a stock always has a price. So if you're buying Apple stock, like you can check, and of course in the world that we live in today with the internet and phone, your phone, you can just look up Apple stock right on your phone and get a price of like what it is trading at this very second, and that's what we consider dynamic pricing. So there's always different value to that.
And I think some people don't understand if they panic and they're not using an advisor who has a whole comprehensive plan, and don't panic when the market has a bad day, someone puts in a sell, they don't realize that if they put it in at 1 o'clock, it's at close.
On a mutual fund.
On a mutual fund, yeah.
Yeah, in a mutual fund, if you're panicking and you want to get out, and because the market's going down, and like you put in your sell order at some time during the day, you're going to get the price at 4 o'clock when the market closes. So, well, Steve, I think we're at the end of another exciting show here on Financially Speaking. So we're going to have, like you said, we're going to have another version of this. Maybe we'll call that Investing 102. So stay tuned for that. But this is Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush.